Hey there, and welcome. I'm Anna Hartman, and this is Unreal Results, a podcast where I help you get better outcomes and gain the confidence that you can help anyone, even the most complex cases. Join me as I teach about the influence of the visceral organs and the nervous system on movement, pain, and injuries, all while shifting the paradigm of what whole body assessment and treatment really looks like. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hello. I am here with another episode of the Unreal Results podcast. It's going to be a quick one. Got a plane to catch. But yeah, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about this week after coming down off of all the shoulder material. The 3-hour live event this weekend went so great. I had so much fun. Thank you to those of you who joined me. If you missed it and have FOMO, I'll probably be turning it into a self-paced online course soon, so you'll be able to catch it there. And yeah, by the time this podcast comes out, I'll be in the middle of the public launch to the 2023 Revitalize Mentorship. So that is my flagship program. It's a 4-month intensive group online mentorship program where I teach you all of the things inside the MovementREV methodology. You learn deeply in your own body and with your patients how to put the MovementREV philosophies and principles into practice, and also learn how to use the MovementREV systems, including the locator test assessment protocol and how I cue movement and how I look at movement, and learning all about the viscera and the nervous system lens of view. So everything you can learn from me is in the Revitalize Mentorship. And so it is a great but intensive 4 months. And then the coolest part of the mentorship, well, I think the live calls are the coolest part of the mentorship, but the second coolest part of the mentorship is once you've gone through the mentorship, you as a mentorship alumni, you're invited to yearly, maybe even more than once a year now, 3-day mastermind events where the only people that can come are people that have gone through the mentorship education. So we're all talking the same language. We're all on the same level in terms of how we look at the body. And we are able to take those 3 days and do all hands-on, all practical application. And it's just one of my favorite things because it's just so cool to be able to teach everybody in person, but not have to worry about background information. And then also to be able to see people use the MovementREV systems, but within their tool kit, like within their set of skills, whether they're a physical therapist or an athletic trainer or a chiropractor or a massage therapist or a fascial stretch therapist or a Pilates instructor. All of the things, it is so cool to see someone be able to assess the body, come to the same location, but then pick a different tool and still get the same amazing results. And so I love that. It's the best part of the mentorship. Plus, we just get to hang out in San Diego and enjoy the weather. Try to do a beach fire if it's nice outside, and maybe even put some whale watching tours together. But yeah, it's a really fun mastermind, and it's just going to grow in the future. And I just am so excited for it. So if you've been thinking about the mentorship, I encourage you to take a look at it and reach out if you have any questions, because I would love you there. All right, without further ado, let's dive into the episode, because like I said, it'll be a quick one. When I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, I didn't really know. And then yesterday, the sun finally came out in San Diego. We're in the middle of May gray here, so the marine layer is pretty thick. The sunshine came out, and that combined with I've been working a lot lately, I was just like, I need to get out of the house. I want to go outside, and I want to do something active. And so I grabbed my brand new set of golf clubs and went to the driving range. And whenever I go golfing now, I am just so grateful to be able to do it. I grew up playing golf and even golfed on the high school golf team. And unfortunately, after having back surgery, I retired from it because it just to me was not worth it to go through the process of doing all I needed to do to rehab in order to be able to play again. I just wasn't playing enough. So it was easier for me to just give it up. So I actually didn't golf for about 12 plus years, from 2009 to last year, 2022. So, 13 years I was retired from golf, and I'm just so grateful that I got back into it last year. And I got back into it because my back feels so good. And so golfing just makes me realize and just am so grateful for the whole experience that my back and my back surgery gave to me. So that's what I want this podcast episode to be about, is about my back surgery, leading up to it, the story of my back surgery, because it's a comical one, pretty good. But then also everything I learned from it. And so this is probably going to be a multi-part episode. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive back in. Then when I was 29, or before I turned 29, the couple months before I turned 29, off and on, I would have what I described as SI joint pain. And it would come and go here and there when I would do yoga, but it was like nothing big. And then one day while Sue Falsoni and I were at the NATA meeting in San Antonio, Texas, we're walking down the Riverwalk one day, going to have some cocktails, of course. And I'm like, hey, Sue, you know what's weird? And she's like, what? I was like, my big toe has been numb. Like, it's like while we're walking right now, like I literally can't feel my big toe. I was like, it's the weirdest feeling. And she was like, wow, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, isn't that weird? And we're like, huh, weird. And then we just kept walking. And it was a funny moment that sticks out because Sue and I are very well known in the profession, and we're very smart. And for us to see that and not think anything of it was just, it just goes to show you're not a very good patient to yourself. So anyways, literally the end of that trip, she had to leave earlier than I did. And when she left the hotel room that we were sharing the last morning of the conference, she's like, hey, I gotta go. See you later. And I said, I was barely awake. And I was like, dude, my big toe is still numb. Well, a week later, I woke up after sleeping on the couch one day with raging, what I thought was raging sciatica, the worst pain I've ever felt. Literally, I felt like my leg was on fire and I could barely stand up to get ready for work. And I was like, this is not good. And it took me like an hour and a half to get to work that day, because normally the drive was like 30 minutes, but I had to stop multiple times to get out of the car because I was in so much pain seated. And by the time I got to work, I walked in, and first person I saw was the hockey group and Coach Eto, and I had tears in my eyes. I was like in so much pain, and he's like, oh my gosh, Banana, are you okay? And I was like, I am not okay. And I crawled onto the treatment table, and Jeremy Hassler, one of my good friends and another athletic trainer and massage therapist, he started to work on me, and it just was still so painful, and it didn't help, and I could barely sit, and I was in a lot of pain. I basically, for the next 3 days, it was just like about finding a position that I could sit in without pain, which ironically was on the floor in a Z-sit, but using the Pilates arc to support my pelvis. So I was in a little bit of a side bend. So I was meeting myself where I was at. I wasn't forcing myself out of the side bend, right? This is a philosophy, like a principle of MovementREV now, is like meeting the body where it is, not forcing it, realizing the body is working for you and against you. And intuitively, I felt that to be true because it was the most comfortable position for me. And that weekend I was supposed to work the Professional Hockey Athletic Trainers Society meeting. We had a booth there advertising our education back in the day, and I was supposed to work. So I was like, I felt better. And at that point, 3 days later, after taking some medicine, just like ibuprofen, I was starting to feel a little bit better, especially better when I was standing. So it's like, as long as I wasn't sitting, I was cool. And I remember walking through the JW Marriott Desert Ridge, which is this big resort hotel. And I was walking towards the convention area, like the big ballroom area. And walking down the big corridor, you could hear my feet. And I'd step, and then there was a slap. And I'd step and slap, step and slap. And I remember walking down the hallway, and I'm like, that's interesting. That's not good. It kind of feels like I can't dorsiflex my foot. And I'm like, a little bit like I have foot drop. But I'm like, I'm fine. It was literally that meme, the dumpster fire and the dog like surrounded by all the fire, and he's like, I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. That's how I was. I was in straight denial. So that was on a Saturday. So I woke up. The progression, I had woke up on Wednesday with all that pain, and then that was Saturday. I had less pain but a foot drop. And I got done. I spent like 6 hours at the conference, and I got home from the conference, and I texted Sue. And I said, hey, you know how yesterday at happy hour I told you my back was really bothering me, like real bad sciatica, like SI joint pain? She's like, yeah. I was like, I don't think I can dorsiflex right now. And she's like, what? And she's like texting me in all capital letters. She's like, call the doctor. Call the ortho that we worked with. And I was like, nah, I'll be fine. I can figure this out. I'll be fine. And so I sat down on the couch, and I tried to dorsiflex my foot. And the right one dorsiflexed and the left one wouldn't. And then I was like, ooh, that's not good. So then I laid down on the couch because I was like, maybe it's just a little weak. Maybe I need to take gravity out of the picture. And I laid down on the couch. And again, I looked at my feet, and I tried to dorsiflex, and I was like, ooh. Yeah, again, right side, no problem. Left side, literally nothing. And I was like, okay, this isn't good. So I texted the doctor, and I said, hey, Doug, I think I hurt my back. I had really bad sciatica this week, and I don't seem to be able to dorsiflex my foot in any position, against gravity or not against gravity. I was like, so I don't know. I hate to bother you on a Saturday, but can you help? And he immediately called me back, and he was like, oh my gosh, have you lost bowel and bladder control? And I was like, well, that's an interesting question to ask someone right out of the gate, but I don't think so. And he's like, okay, well, you would know. And he's like, Anna, this is not good. This is like kind of emergency, not good. And he was like, let's see if we can get you an MRI this weekend. He's like, but if you do lose bowel or bladder control, please go to the emergency room. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, shit, this is a big deal. And it was weird because my back didn't hurt too bad. And the sciatica at that point had started to feel a little bit better, which just goes to show you like the physiology of what happens when you're having some of that pain, specifically from the disc. So finally, anyways, I was able to get an MRI the following Monday, and they called me right after, and the doctor's assistant was like, oh my gosh, Anna, like you're back. He's like, I've got like 70-year-old, 80-year-old patients coming in the office that their back looks better than yours. He's like, you have got three extruded discs, one of which is extruded by 1.5 centimeters, and it's pressing on your L4 nerve root. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. And so I talked to the doctor, and I was like, well, I don't want to have surgery. And he's like, well, maybe you should see the neurosurgeon just in case. It's nice to have somebody like this in your back pocket in case shit hits the fan. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go see the neurosurgeon. He's like, well, I'm going to have you see this one doctor in Arizona. He's seen my parents. It's literally who I would use. He's one of the best in the world, not only in Arizona. His name's Dr. Frederick Marciano. at Barrow Neuro Institute. And he's like, so I'll make a call and see if you can get in because it's by referral only. And I was like, okay. Dr. Marciano's office called me the next day and they said, oh, hi, looks like we need to get you in to see Dr. Marciano, and his schedule's pretty full, but he talked to the doctor and saw your MRI, and he's seen patients like the day before 4th of July, but he's going to squeeze you in. Can you come in at 8 p.m.? His last patient. And I'm like, okay. I literally didn't realize it was like such an emergency situation. So when I saw Dr. Marciano, you know, I was in my 20s. I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew better than the neurosurgeon. And I was like, I don't need surgery. And he was like, bless his heart, because he was like, your call, your body, your choice. Here's why I think you need surgery. But let's make a deal. He's like, if you get dorsiflexion back, you can do all the things you know to decrease inflammation and like rehab things. He's like, if you are without pain and have a little bit even of dorsiflexion back by the end of the weekend, then we no need to do surgery. He's like, but if you don't, then let's just go ahead and schedule you for surgery on like my next opening, which is Wednesday. And I was like, yeah, I don't need surgery. And so that weekend I did everything I knew in the world to help this. I floated in the pool. I did rehab exercises. I ate only anti-inflammatory foods. I grounded. I did like all the things. And then also he gave me a dose pack, steroids. And I felt way better. And I tried to dorsiflex my foot so hard. I wish I knew now what I knew then, because maybe I could have changed the dorsiflexion a little bit, but probably not. But anyways, on Monday morning, I was all set to call him and be like, I think I need more time. Like, I'm feeling way better. Even though I don't have dorsiflexion, I'm feeling way better. But unfortunately, by the time I drove up to work, I was in excruciating pain again, and I still didn't have dorsiflexion, and I was just like, I called his office in tears, and I was like, okay, you're right. I probably should have surgery Wednesday. They're like, oh yeah, we already scheduled you. We figured you could call and tell us this, so you're on the schedule. Like, we'll see you Wednesday. And I was like, what? So went in for surgery on a Wednesday, and it was the first. Actually, it was a wild experience. I went in with excruciating sciatica and no ability to dorsiflex, and it was a long day because there was emergency. We had to push back the surgery. But anyways, by the time, once I got out of surgery, I could dorsiflex my foot again. It was amazing. And my sciatica was almost completely gone. And it was so interesting because to that point, the only time I'd ever had surgeries was for like ACL surgeries, like orthopedic surgeries, that like you're injured and then you go have surgery and they do something to help you, but you're still pretty injured and it takes a long time to rehab. So this back surgery was very different, and like I went in because I couldn't dorsiflex my foot, and literally immediately after I could dorsiflex, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. However, I traded sciatica and the inability to dorsiflex for pretty severe back pain, because turns out when they make an incision through your thoracolumbar fascia, it is very painful, and you feel just how important that connection of the thoracolumbar fascia is to your core stability and movement everywhere. Everything you do, like, you have no idea how much your core right now, just sitting, listening to this, if you're in the car especially, how much your fascia around your trunk is actually stabilizing you until it's not. And then you're like, holy cow, this is painful. So anyways, that's my fun story about my leading up to my back surgery. And that was a tipping point in my career, because it forced me to do things differently, and it forced me to learn a ton more about movement science and a ton more, because unfortunately, even though I had such a great outcome in terms of restoring my dorsiflexion, it was a very long journey back to feeling 100%. The doctor told me like 4-month rehab, and I'd say in 4 months, I felt better and I could do stuff, but it was still a struggle. I was waking up with a painful back. Like I said before, that was less common. I still had residual sciatica, a hamstring that would cramp so easily. Some numbness in my toes still, numbness in other parts of my leg, which I didn't appreciate for years until years after. The toe was just the most noticeable. I had this weird feeling like the left side of my body was not connected to the right side of my body. So a lot of interoceptive disruption. And I just had quite a challenge with fully feeling better from, I don't think it was the surgery, actually. I think it was just from that experience, from the back problem in general, from the extruded discs, from the other ones, right? All I had was a microdiscectomy. So they go in and they remove the disc material that was pressing on my nerve and irrigate the joint space and clean up any little floaters to decompress the nerve root. And that's it. And so he didn't touch the other levels, which also were extruded. So it was L3, L4, L4, L5, and L5S1. And so the journey, it was a long journey. I would say it wasn't until maybe year 8 that I could fully say, yeah, I don't have back pain anymore. And even then I would have flare-ups here and there. And now it's very rare for my back to hurt. Very. I'd say maybe once or twice a year, knock on wood, because I don't want to wake up tomorrow with back pain. But I totally know how to manage it now. I know so much more about it, and I've learned so much, and it's the path that my back, the journey to figuring out my back, that has exposed me to so much education and so much information that have been integral pieces of the MovementREV philosophy and the MovementREV methods, that is just it really is a gift. At the beginning, one of the main gifts was learning how powerful movement could be in making changes in people's body, because I was forced to not be so manual therapy based. Leading up to that point, I did a lot of manual therapy with my athletes. We would still do exercises and movement and things like that, but if I had an hour session with them, I might do 30 minutes of manual and 30 minutes of exercise. I had restrictions on how much I could lift after my back surgery, but I still had to work. And so I had these big football players and these baseball players, all these athletes that I needed to still provide really good care for, and I couldn't touch them. Of course, which was nice. I had Jeremy, I had other people that I worked with that could help me with manual therapy when it was needed, but it really forced me to learn how to articulate my cues and how to teach people about the body and to teach people about movement in order to create a change in their body. And it opened my eyes to how many things that we often view in traditional sports medicine that we think are a structural problem and something to mobilize, like a joint to be mobilized or a muscle to be manipulated or whatever it may be, through manual therapy or other means, that if the person could just embody the bony movement and embody really what was going on at a deeper level, not cueing people to turn on a muscle or turn off a muscle, but really understand what's happening at the joint and feel it, facilitate the feeling of it, the changes they made were just as good, if not better, than my manual therapy. And the cool thing is they were starting to stick more. So something I was working on with an athlete where I was needed to do it 3-4 times a week, I would do it and then it would stick, and we'd come back to treatment the next day and like we'd improve upon it. And so it was the beginning of me realizing the importance of creating a movement experience and cultivating this awareness within one's body, this improved interoception, this truly improved proprioception of all of their joints, and matching it with their breath, and just being able to trust their body and feel it more. This was really the beginning of that. And that is something that I've continued to build on in my practice, both in my own body and with my athletes. And I think it is a really important part of someone's rehabilitation process, is this improving of interoception, improving of proprioception. And so many times people think of like, oh, how can we add a proprioceptive exercise into this person's workout? Oh, let's throw them on a unstable surface. That is not the same. Balance does not equal proprioception. Period. Balance is balance. So understanding that proprioception relies so much on the mechanoreceptors within the joints and within the fascial tissues, this opens the doors to so many other ways to improve someone's proprioception than balancing with your eyes closed or balancing on an unstable surface. So this, spoiler alert, this is going to be a multi-part episode. But that's what we're going to talk more about. And then I'm also going to talk more about how the visceral work was so important to my back pain, how learning from Philip Beach and understanding the contractile field theory was so important for rehabilitating my back pain. And then ultimately, the final piece of the puzzle was increasing my stiffness and just how to go about doing that, and understanding that for my body type, what type of movement is really going to be best for me. So I'm excited for these next few episodes for you to hear. I have a few blog posts and Instagram posts on part of my journey from back pain. So I'm going to link those in the show notes. So if you want to get a head start of what we're going to talk about, but I look forward to sharing more. I hope you enjoyed that funny-ish story about leading up to my back surgery, and I'll see you soon. All right. Have a great day.